What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm Jamie. This is Headbanging Through It, a podcast where we talk about heavy metal and mental health and other hard shit. How's everyone doing today? It's been a little bit of a stretch since my last episode, and I feel like I've had a lot going on. How am I doing? Coping, I guess is the word. Coping. Yeah, not too terrible. Not too terrible. And I feel like I wish I could answer that question without having to say, I don't know how I'm doing all the time, because that's a bit annoying. I have to stop and think about how I'm doing, and then I think about my week and what my life looks like right now, and then I get really confused because there's just a lot going on. And so I'm like, how am I doing? Okay, I guess is the honest answer. And I feel like I say that as a response pretty regularly. I guess it's better than I don't know. There's been a lot going on in my house the last week. Everyone except for my husband has been sick, including myself. So I did not get a lot done this week, and that's unfortunate. So, and then it's also spring break. So my kids are home and sick on spring break. And that in itself is just a lot. And then me being sick on top of that, it really sucks. So it took us all down. Yeah. So I have just been recovering from that. It takes me like a minute to clear my thought process when I'm starting these podcasts. I just want to dive into them and just start talking. And then I realize that I don't have a plan, and I probably should have a plan. If I try to plan too many things, then I also get overwhelmed. I have a lot to give you guys for updates this week. And I think this episode today is just going to be like a mental health check-in update on what's going on in my life, because I've had a lot going on in the last week, and I want to keep you guys posted on things that are happening as I go through them, because that's what the podcast is for. If you've been tuning in, you know this already, that I've had some stuff come up in my mental health recently, and I am in the process of heading back to therapy. I have started back in therapy, and so I have a few things to update about that. So today's episode is going to be focused on basically just giving you guys some updates of what's been going on in my life for the last week or so. Yeah, it's just a learning experience for me too, right? Yes, I have been through a lot in the last 10 years, and I'm still figuring out what I'm doing through my post-traumatic stress disorder. And even after 10 years, it still feels like I am new to this. I do have days where I feel like, how come I didn't know that? Or how come I didn't know this? Or why didn't I see this before? Right. And I think with a lot of things with chronic illnesses and long-term health issues is that the more you're in it, the longer that you're in it, the more that you learn. Just like with anything in life, really, like the older we get, the more we understand things, right? I also wanted to touch base on just my thought process overall on all the things that I'm doing. I just want to touch base on the fact that like things are going to shift for me all the time in this journey, right? And this is all a learning experience for me. So one week I might say something about what I'm going through and how I feel about it, and give you guys like some insight into what is going on in just my thought process and my brain, and what it's like for me personally to move through it. And I might have strong feelings about it or opinions, and then a month later that might all change. I am just a human being, and I am evolving as I move through this. Things do change and shift in my life every day with my mental health. Yesterday is not the same as tomorrow, right? I will say one thing one week and then probably another thing the next week, just based on what I'm learning and what I'm going through. That is just like a normal part of being a human being and moving through something, and like things don't always stay the same, right? We definitely are not the same throughout our entire lives. As we move through life and we experience things, and things come up and things shift and things change, so do we. We evolve, and based on our environment and the things that come at us, right? Like it's a learning experience. And so I just want everyone to keep that in mind when I'm doing these podcasts. I'm not an expert. Most of the time, I don't know if I'm going in the right direction with anything that I'm doing. I guess I just feel like I am climbing a wall And I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the top or, find the other side or what's on the other side of that wall. I'm just climbing it and hoping that I get somewhere. And if you guys want to come along for the journey and see what it's like to move through what I'm moving through, that's great. I'm sure that not everyone is going to share the same opinions as me and have the same thought process as me as I move through these things. And that's okay. This whole thing is just about sharing information and just being vulnerable, really, and allowing people to see what it's like to experience this through someone else's eyes. I'm not sure. I feel like it's so hard for me to articulate like what I want to say sometimes. I hope that makes sense. I've had like a lot of waves of confusion and chaos in my brain around like sometimes when I'm doing these podcasts, if I'm doing them in a format that is helpful for people. Am I saying too much? Am I like giving too strong of opinions about stuff? Like the whole point is just to like share information and encourage people to dig into their own health and their own bodies and their own mental health and find ways to, help yourselves and like take power into your own hands. And like if you feel like you're stuck in something or not in a healthy space, that there are options and ways that you can get through those hard times in those moments. I think that so many people just keep those moments and those stuck points and sections to themselves and don't share them, or they're scared to like let a loved one know that they're going through something hard. I get that. I definitely understand what that feels like. I'm here talking about the things that I've hidden from my loved ones for a long time. I know what it did to me, and I know how it felt inside to stifle all of that stuff and pretend that it wasn't an issue. So the whole point is just to like share it. Throw it out there. Let people see it. I just want to do it in a way that is helpful for others. That's all. I don't know if I said that properly. I feel like my brain is a little bit murky today because I haven't found my focus yet. And that's okay. That's what my brain does sometimes. So now that I've rambled, let's talk about what's been going on in my life. I left off last week talking about counseling and the different types of counseling and what different aspects of counseling can offer people. And if you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out. If you are considering counseling and you want more information about some of the things that might be out there, I do go into quite a few different areas of counseling and therapy. And so maybe that will be helpful for you. Or if you know someone going through something that information might be helpful for them, please share it with them. I talked last week about going back to therapy. I have had that one session. I left off talking about cognitive processing therapy, which is what I'm going to be diving into in the oncoming weeks. I haven't had another session with this counselor again since my first one, so I haven't confirmed that with her that I want to do it, but I have confirmed with myself that I want to do it. So that's great. In my last podcast, I do this all the time. I'm just like, I really want to do it. I just have to commit, right? And then I get stuck in these spaces of like not committing. And that's just part of my cycle too. Taking so long to like commit to something that I know is going to be good for my mental health. But also, I think a piece of that is just like making sure that it is comfortable for me. I don't know. I feel like with my anxiety and all the stuff that I go through with my mental health, that it just is like part of my process to take the information in and then sit with it for a little while and then find comfort with it and then move forward. I think that's okay. I think that is actually like a healthy way to figure out whether you want to do something or not, instead of just like blindly committing to something and be like, let's go. Although I think there's like a lot to be said about doing stuff like that too. And just like those last minute commitments of like, yeah, let's go do something in the moment, right? Like I do miss having spontaneity in my life. So anyways, however long that took of me telling myself I should do it and then waffling with it and then going back and forth and not committing to it and saying I should commit to it and doing that whole thing that I do in my brain and then committing in my mind and in my heart saying, yes, I'm going to do that. When I start going through that, so what it looks like is I touched on this on my last episode. It is a 12-week process, a 12-week program of cognitive processing therapy that is said to help alleviate symptoms of trauma. So I am thinking that what I'm going to do with that is each week that I go through something, or maybe every couple of weeks, depending on what it looks like, because I don't have all the information about it yet, that I want to walk through each week or every couple of weeks of what I'm doing with you guys and let you know in detail what these sessions are going to entail. My counselor did ask me to listen to a podcast that was related to cognitive processing therapy. And she sent me the link, and I touched on that as well in my last podcast, that I started listening to it, and then it was like triggering my PTSD really bad. And then I had to keep shutting it off. And then I had like a bit of a meltdown because I just didn't want to listen to it. I did end up finishing it. It was tricky. It was difficult for me to get through. And I have to tell myself that I can do hard things. I can do hard things. Oh, fuck. It's just hard when things are just too sensitive or too close to an area that I know is going to be like push my buttons, push my like PTSD buttons. I would rather just avoid it, right? Like, why put myself through the stress of something that I know is going to elevate my nervous system? It doesn't seem like a sensible thing to do. So I avoid. And that's what I did. I kept pressing play and then trying to get through it and then being like, fuck this. I don't want to listen to this. It's like way too much for me. It's basically like listening to one of the tapes that I used to transcribe in my work, right? Like, I don't want to hear the story. I don't want to listen to somebody that went through something hard, talk about their trauma and the event that they went through, right? And it was just like this flood of stuff came into my brain, and then I shut it off, walked away. And then a few days went by again, and I was like, maybe I should try again, put it back on. And then that part of it was like a little bit less stressful. Anyway, it ended up being, I think it was only actually like 3 episodes, and it was a couple of hours my time. I got through it. I did okay. I survived it. It wasn't like I didn't have like a relapse or fall into like any chaotic space afterwards. So that's something. And I will bring it up in counseling about like, I was just like a little irritated with it because I was like, is this the only podcast about this? Does anyone else talk about cognitive processing therapy? I found that the information in the podcast was helpful, but not that helpful. It was more about like someone's experience. I don't know. I didn't love listening to it. I didn't love the tone of voice. I didn't love the podcast itself. Was not really like, it didn't fit for me. I didn't love it. So I was like, maybe if I discuss the things that I go through in a more generic way that's not so detailed or personal, based on like the significance of like the events or the files that I've dealt with or whatever the fuck I'm going to be dealing with in these sessions. If I could give you guys some insight and information regarding what each week looks like without it being like something that might potentially trigger somebody. I'm thinking that that is going to be what I do for like the next few weeks as I go through this. So it's 12 weeks. I also have to do 2 intake sessions before we start the 12 weeks. So she has to get like more familiar with me and my background and my story and all the things. I personally have never heard of this type of therapy. Not that I'm doing a lot of digging around like what's out there, but if there is someone doing a lot of digging about what's out there, my counselor did say there's not a ton of information on it. So it could be helpful to have some podcasts that have a little bit more information than this one that she gave me, because it didn't connect with me. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I think it'll be good for me to just log some of this stuff too as I'm going through it, right? Like, I don't always understand what's happening as I'm moving into these stages too. And I like the idea of being able to go back and like listen to my overall perceptions after I go through something. So that might also be interesting. I've also been thinking a little bit about my episode of like, am I stuck? And laughing to myself, because now that I'm going into therapy and I've been to a session, I'm like, realized how fucking stuck I really was. And then kind of wondering like how long I was in that space for. And I think this is just a really normal part of post-traumatic stress disorder. I think that something significant has to happen. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say has to happen, but I think that when something significant happens, that forces you into like kind of that corner of like feeling like you're backed up against the wall. It helps you see more clearly that something needs to shift. right? Like I feel like I've been kind of working up to needing to be back in therapy for quite a long time and just avoiding it, right? And probably for years. And just coasting through this space of like it's not so bad, right? Like there's, things are okay. It's not great here and it's not the best here, but it's not terrible, right? And then feeling like that level, that's where my bar is at for my mental health of just like, well, I'm not completely destroyed and I'm not like way up here with full of excitement and joy all the time. I'm somewhere in the middle. So, maybe everything is okay because isn't that kind of what life is? Like not too high, not too low, kind of like right here. I feel like, I lived in that space for quite a long time of just feeling like if nothing was really like coming at me or screaming at me to do something, that it was all right, even though I knew in the back of my mind there was stuff that I was kind of like scratching at me, gnawing at me a little of like, you should probably deal with this eventually. And I've known that forever. But I think that it does help when something pushes you into a space of like, you get to like a fork in the road and you're like, okay, well, I have a choice. I can go this way and keep doing what I'm doing, or I can go this way and see if something shifts. And once I took that turn in the other direction, I realized like I've probably been sitting at that fork in the road for quite a while and just like ignoring the fact that I was at the fork in the road. I don't know, like delusional space of messaging myself that I wasn't, even though I was. And I think that that is just like part of being in these ups and downs of mental health issues and really anything in life that you're going through that's hard. Most of the time, you just don't really realize what's happening until you're all the way past it, right? Or like partially past it. It's just like really hard to see stuff sometimes when you're in the thick of it. And I know that. I say that all the time. Yeah, it's like a regular occurrence in my life. And so sometimes when I talk about something like, am I stuck? And then I have a conversation, that podcast actually really helped me just by discussing it and talking about all these things that I felt like I was kind of like jammed into by talking about it and just like being conscious of the things that I was doing and discussing the behaviors and all the actions that I was taking around that I really was like not moving through the stuff that I needed to move through. Cognitive processing therapy, probably starting in 2 or 3 weeks. I did fill out the paperwork. I still don't know what the third one is that I did. I know that there was one that measured my level of anxiety, and then one that was measuring the level of my post-traumatic stress disorder. I can't remember what the questions were in the third one, and I still can't figure out what that one was for. I don't remember it. I know that the post-traumatic stress disorder one, both of them, I was like a little bit, what is the word? I want to say irritated and annoyed and like kind of ticked off and frustrated and like all these words come up that I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to read this. I don't want to tick this box. And then also feeling like the questions weren't really fair. So I am going to bring that up with my counselor too, because there was these pieces, and maybe it is just also, it may also just be that I am so used to being in this headspace, this anxious headspace, that that's just my normal, right? I've talked about that before of like, this is my belief system and this is where I'm at. And for me, this is my regular thought pattern. So if you're coming at me and asking me these questions, this is my regular reaction. But what the rest of society's normal or regular reaction to that same thing might not be the same as mine. These are spaces that I am digging into and will get further into in my counseling sessions. But there was one question that really irritated me. And it was like, okay, so the questions were, you had to answer them in a way, the format of answering them was like rarely, not very often, often, every day, or something like that, right? Like it was like, how often do you do this? Or so the question is like, how often do you think this? How often do you do this? You respond with like, never, rarely, somewhat often, often, very often, every day, whatever. And when I was filling out the anxiety form, every single question that I responded to was every single day. That was my answer for all of them. And that pissed me off. I was like, okay, well, I already know that I have anxiety, so I guess that's okay. And also, right? Like how many other people are reading these questions and looking at them and saying, "Well, I do that every day as well," and they don't have anxiety? I don't know. I felt like some of the questions were a trap. And again, that could just be my perspective and my perceptions of like what's normal. I have a hard time figuring out what that is. But the one question was like, how often do you think something bad is going to happen? I was like, okay, well, that's fucked because like I think something bad is going to happen every day, every day. And I think that because something bad does happen every day. Somewhere in the world right now, something bad is happening. Something bad is happening every single fucking day. Probably every hour, every moment, every fucking day, all the time. So I didn't feel like that was a fair question. I know that bad things happen every day. I lived in a fucking career where that was fact, right? Like stone cold fucking fact. And just because I'm not looking at it anymore now and not aware of all the things that are happening around where I live or in society or whatever the fuck, doesn't mean that it's not true, right? Like I do know that bad things happen every day. I know that. That's not anxiety. That's just the fucking truth. So, do I think that bad things are going to happen to me every day? Not necessarily. I do have stress around, going through my days. If I do this, is this going to happen if I do that? But those are different aspects of anxiety, right? And there were different questions for those aspects of anxiety. But I was a little fucking annoyed by this question. Like, how often do you think something bad is going to happen? Every day. Every day, every day, something bad does happen. That is a fact. I might not be rational in like my thought process about that question because I was just like, well, is that a piece of my anxiety? Is it? It could be. I mean, I really don't know. The way that I was raised and the environment I grew up in and my career, I mean, for me, it just is like true fact. Bad things happen. Bad things happen. Maybe that's a thought process that I'm going to work on in cognitive processing therapy. I guess we'll find out as I move through the 12-week program. So stay tuned for the results on that. Who knows? Like in 12 weeks, maybe I will be looking at that sheet and saying, how often do I think something bad is going to happen? And maybe I'll answer the question like, not very often. I can't imagine anything going on in therapy that's going to change how I feel about that because it is just truth, right? Like I can't unknow that about the world. I know for a fact that bad things happen all the time. That's a fact. Maybe there's a way that therapy can alleviate that for me or shift some sort of like big feeling that I have around that. I will be interested to learn. And maybe you guys will be interested to learn with me. So, I mean, it's all like, I really don't know what to expect. After listening to this podcast, I know that there's going to be pieces of it that we work through that are called stuck points. And I laughed about this too because I just did a podcast called Am I Stuck? And I just laughed about that because I looked back at all the things I talked about in that episode and realized, yeah, I am stuck. And I am just like in my bubble trying to hold myself together, kind of like in this space of like survival mode, protecting myself in that space and holding on until I figure out what I need to do next. And sometimes that is like just a short amount of time. And sometimes it's a really long amount of time. I think for each of us and what we're going through, it is just like how we move through it. It's a process, right? Like you can't force someone to see what they need to do. They kind of have to get there on their own terms and like show up, open the door. Is this the right one? No, close it, walk down the hall. What's through this door? Maybe I'm in the wrong fucking house. Like it's different for everyone. We just don't have clear answers on where we're going with our mental health. And I think that's very, very true for all of us. I'm just walking through it blindly because that is really how I feel. I don't know where I am a lot of the time. And I think that is just okay, right? We're just like trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what feels good, trying to figure out what makes sense, trying to figure out like a way to get results that feels safe. And safety is a big fucking issue for me. It is my number one priority while I'm in my healing process. Anyways, so what was I talking about? The paperwork, filled the paperwork out, got a little angry about that. And then the podcast, I listened to the podcast and stuck points. So stuck points, I guess part of cognitive processing therapy is like going through and talking about things that you have gone through, traumatic events, whatever it is, a piece of your trauma, and then finding out where those big emotions come up, or like where you get really upset or angry or irritated, or like feel a lot of shame, or whatever the big emotions are around a point of your story, or the story that you're telling, or the event that's happened. I think that's going to be interesting because I feel like there's some big pieces in a lot of what I've dealt with through my work and just through my upbringing that I have these thought processes around, and big emotions that come up where I get stuck in these cycles and patterns of messaging myself certain things that are probably not true. I know they're not true, actually, and breaking those cycles. So I'm excited to dig into some of that and really get to the root of where those stuck pieces are. And I do like that they're called stuck pieces because I literally feel stuck. So that really connects with me. I think that the whole process is going to be really good for me. So I'm excited to find out more about what it's like and dig into these steps. And the sessions are really expensive. So I have a lot of stress around that. But I wanted to touch base on the fact that I think it was a couple of episodes ago. I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe it was the stuck one, where I was talking about feeling really frustrated around having a work related mental health illness that was 100% work safe issue, approved file, and then closed a couple of years afterwards when they said that I was done. And then I've been left on my own since then, right? And feeling really frustrated around how I don't have any support now that like my file's been closed. My employer doesn't want to have anything to do with me. They don't give a shit about how I'm doing. I woke up really fiery about it one day, and then I started doing a bit of digging into information around it. And I found out that I can actually apply to have my WorkSafe file reopened if it is for medical coverage that is related to the original injury. So if anyone is listening that didn't know that, it's good information to have. I wish I had known that 10 fucking years ago, because I really strongly feel that I would have been doing regular therapy sessions over the last 10 years if I had proper support and coverage for it. My mental health has definitely needed regular upkeep for the last decade that I have not had. So I wish I knew that before. I would have applied for this a long time ago if I knew that it was an option. So if you're listening and you didn't know that, it is an option. The downside to it, however, is that I have to get a physician to fill out the initial form and then send it into WorkSafe to get them to consider reopening it. So my life is in a doctor's hands. They're the ones that have to initiate the process. So for me, that's not great. I don't have a lot of trust in the medical system. My family doctor retired a long time ago, and so my current physician is not someone that I see as very reliable. I was a little disappointed to know that I can't just fill the form out myself and then have my counselor or therapist, the person that's going to be actually working with me one-on-one and very closely on a personal level with my actual mental health issues, I feel should be the one that is filling that form out. My family doctor doesn't know shit about my mental health stuff at all. I've only had this doctor for a few months and he does not know anything about it. And so to go in and try to like reiterate and go through all of that stuff with someone that doesn't know anything about me is really stressful. And then of course I went to make an appointment and my family doctor is away for 3 weeks. So then I have someone that's filling in for him that has to do it. And so not only on top of my current doctor not knowing anything about me and my mental health stuff, now I've got this locum or sit-in doctor who also knows even less about me sitting in that position, who is going to talk to me on the phone about what I need. And I did do this call and I already got the paperwork sorted out, and she was lovely. She was great. She like really helped me get through the stuff. She said she's going to put through right away. Shouldn't be long. Of course, it's going to be long. It's WorkSafe. They take for fucking ever to do everything. I said to my mom, I'll be lucky if I get this approved in 2 fucking years, but I'm going to get the paperwork started, and I am not going to give up because I know that this is something that I will fight for and that it should should be covered because this is something that is definitely related to my work. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about was this doctor that was my covering for my family doctor. And I got on the phone and I started explaining what I needed, telling her what was going on in my life. I have having these nightmares and sleeplessness and this and that, and feeling like overwhelmed, and that I just really needed to like get to counseling, and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. She was great about filling out the paperwork. And then when she got through that, she was like, how can I help you right now? Can we talk about meds? And this piece really bothered me because I, in no way, shape, or form, was looking to get meds. I don't want to have meds. I feel like I'm in a space where I know how to handle my mental health ups and downs in ways that are healthy enough to keep me feeling like I'm at a level that where I'm not going to crash and burn. I do have days where I feel shitty, but not crash and burn, right? And even if I do crash and burn, I feel like I'm going to be able to find my way out of that. So she asked about meds. I told her I was on meds previously. I didn't want to go back on meds. And she said, okay, well, there's lots of different types of meds. And I was like, no, I do not want meds. Thank you. I was very clear. I was like, I'm not looking for meds. I don't want to be back on meds. That's not an option for me right now. I listed off all the things that I'm doing with the gym and acupuncture and eating healthy and like all these other things that I do in my life on a regular basis. And then she said, well, what about your nightmares? I can help you by prescribing you something for your sleep. And I was like, I do not want sleep meds. Thank you. And then she said, okay, well, it wouldn't have to be like a sleep medication. I could prescribe you something that's specifically just for your nightmares. And again, I said, I'm not looking for meds. Thank you. And I thought it was very strange how much she was pushing meds on me. I felt like I almost was being like attacked by this doctor trying to give me meds for every single. I mean, I had a couple of nightmares. I didn't sleep for a few days. I wasn't in a state of like, I haven't slept for like 2 weeks and I'm going fucking crazy, right? I wasn't like, and she didn't ask. There were so many questions that she didn't ask that I feel like as a physician, as a healthcare practitioner, as someone that is like supposed to be in charge or helping someone with their health issues, should ask. Right? Like it was just like I got upset about talking about WorkSafe and needing counseling. I started crying a little bit. Oh, you need this. Do you need medication? You're not well. You should have meds for that. Well, I'm upset because it's a hard situation and I'm an emotional person and I'm having a tearful moment. That doesn't mean that I should be medicated for that. Yeah, I was really like, I got off the phone and I cried more because I was like, what is wrong with our fucking system? How many people are going to doctors and trying to get basic information and then them just saying, here, take this. Here, take this. Oh, I have a med for you when we don't actually need them, right? Like I didn't even know that there were nightmare meds. That, I mean, is probably really helpful for some people. If I was struggling with something on a regular basis and it was like totally breaking me down in ways that I didn't think I could cope with, that could be a consideration. But like she didn't even ask. She didn't ask how often I wasn't sleeping, how many nights I didn't sleep for, how many nightmares I had. Like was it insomnia like for ongoing? Was it just like for me, it was just like a really bad week, right? And it spiked and then everything got crazy. And then like there was a peak and there was an uphill and then a peak and then a downhill and it settled a bit. But it was definitely like at least a week, maybe longer. But she didn't ask me any of those things. And I thought that was really strange. And I just kept saying, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm not looking for that. No, thank you. I just need the form filled out. No, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a talking point worth bringing up because I just have a lot of concern around things going on in our healthcare system. And I know that I'm going to probably have a few podcasts about the things that I've been through, even in the last 5 years with healthcare and just my best friend and her brain injury and what we've seen in and out of the Canadian healthcare systems. That is just fucking shocking. And encouraging people to ask questions. You guys, ask questions about your health. And if you're not sure and you can't get an answer that makes sense, go get another opinion. Go look around, right? Like there are so many things out there that we don't know. And I think a lot of us are taking doctors' information at face value and not understanding that what they're saying is not always the end all be all, that there's not just one fucking answer for everything, you guys. There really isn't. Please just be aware, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. And if it seems off, ask a few more questions. doctors should be able to give you answers. And if they can't give you an answer for something and that seems weird and something seems off, it probably is. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, so I'm going to dig into that. I am now in the process of trying to get my case reopened so that I can get some of my finances covered for therapy involving my post-traumatic stress disorder. So I will also keep you guys posted on that, because every time I deal with WorkSafe, I want to rip all my hair out, and I usually want to light something on fire. I find that whole system really awful, very unsupportive, and really working against people in a lot of ways that they shouldn't be. And I also understand that with that, there are a lot of people trying to abuse the system in ways that are causing these situations to be like, we have to put more barriers up and like make sure that people are really in need of this stuff. I understand those levels of it, and there's no excuse for some of the things that go on in these spaces with the WorkSafe caseworkers and like all of the things that, I mean, I wish I could remember some of the stuff that I went through when I initially went through my process, but it was fucking terrible. I should have recorded a lot of it, but this time I will. I will talk about it as it comes up. I don't give a fuck. I will bring up all the things that I hear, all the things that I get, and I will walk you guys through each stage of it and let you know how it's going. Really strongly feel like it's going to be an uphill battle to get approved for this, and that I'm going to have to do 1,000 things and fill out 1,000 forms, and they're going to say no 25 times, and I'm going to have to keep appealing and fighting and getting the workers advisory board in, and making fucking phone calls, waiting 2 months for someone to get back to me, and all the regular things that happen with these things. When you actually need the help, it seems impossible to fucking get it. All the hoops you have to jump through to get to any sort of supportive end point is fucked. So we'll have probably lots of fun conversations around that. I think that pretty much brings me up to date. If you guys have any questions around any of the stuff that I talked about today, just send me a message. Sometimes I get in these spaces and I just fucking ramble, and then I don't even remember what I said or if I made sense or if it makes sense to you guys. So if there's something that I jumped over that you want clarification on, just let me know. I can make a note. I can bring it up at my next podcast, or I can message you directly. But yeah, that is basically like what's going on in my life. I'm sure that I'll have more to talk about after I do some more therapy sessions. It's spring break, and I am doing a lot of things that push outside of my comfort level where my nervous system is concerned. And so we'll see how that goes. I reluctantly agreed to do something that I'm not sure is going to be great. I know I put myself in these spaces where I'm pushing the limits of what I know is good for me with my mental health. And I don't want to not live my life, right? So fine line between like, am I going to crumble and is this going to be fun? We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm doing a little ski trip with my kids, and there's going to be a lot of people in a small space under one roof, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to cope with that. But hopefully there will be some moments of sunshine and joy. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's it for this week, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to say thank you again to everybody that continues to support me with these podcasts, everyone that's reached out to me to let me know that they resonate with what I'm talking about and they appreciate what I'm doing. You guys are the reason that I'm doing this podcast. I really feel very strongly about putting these things out there for others to listen to. I feel like there's a lot of things that we go through alone in this life because we're too afraid to admit to the people that we love that we are going through something. And to everyone out there that is currently doing that, I see you, I get you, I've been you, and these podcasts are for people like you. I just want people to know that they are not alone in those spaces, and if these podcasts help even one person, then that is the point. I reached this point in my recovery where I just feel like I don't want to hide this anymore. I mean, I talk with my friends and family about it very regularly, but I also am not sure that they understand the depth of what I go through. It's exhausting to constantly find the words and explain it. And I think that the more that we put stuff out into the world and talk about it and just more open about it, the easier it becomes to let people see it. I don't know. Did that make sense? Yeah. To everyone out there that is going through something and having a hard time, I hear you. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll headbang through some more shit next time. Peace, you guys.